That time I fell in love in Thailand. Sort of. And it changed how I travel forever. Have you ever had a moment where your entire reality just glitches? Where you're watching the movie of your life and suddenly the film strip slips, the audio desynchronizes, and you realize you've been in a completely different genre all along? That was me in Thailand. I didn't just go on a vacation. I enrolled in a 10-day intensive masterclass in humility, perception, and the universe's wicked sense of humor. I went searching for pristine beaches and spiritual serenity. What I found was a neon-soaked, chili-laced plot twist I never saw coming. It all started with a plan. For months, I'd meticulously curated my escape. My phone was filled with pictures of turquoise water lapping against white sand, of serene temples perched on misty cliffs. I was going to find myself, as one does. I envisioned coming home tanned, wise, and maybe, just maybe, with a mysterious, beautiful connection, a love story written in the stars and sealed with a shared coconut. The universe, I learned, is a terrible travel agent. It looked at my detailed itinerary, chuckled, and threw it in the bin. My descent into the surreal began on my second night in Bangkok. The city didn't just welcome me, it assaulted my senses in the best possible way. The air was a thick, warm soup, carrying a symphony of scents, sweet frangipani, the savory smoke of sizzling street food, the pungent tang of the Chao Phraya River, and the ever-present metallic hint of jet fuel and infinite possibility. Feeling brave, I left the safety of my hostel and followed the pulse of Bassline until I found myself standing before a tiny, hole-in-the-wall beach bar. It was a beautiful mess. Neon lights flickering erratically, the thump of music you could feel in your teeth, and a sticky floor that seemed to hold the ghosts of 1,000 forgotten nights. It was the kind of place where every drink came with a tiny, sad-looking umbrella and the near-certain promise of immediate, glorious regret. And then, through the haze in the crowd, I saw her. She was, to my sleep-deprived, romance-starved eyes, nothing short of a vision. Long, obsidian hair that seemed to drink the neon light and glow from within. Eyes the color of dark, rich coffee, sparkling with a secret amusement. And a smile that felt like a physical force, a beacon of warmth that could probably power half of Bangkok's skyline. Our eyes met across the crowded room. She offered a slow, curious smile. I, with the suave confidence of a startled fawn, managed a clumsy nod, and what I hoped was a charming grin, but was likely a grimace. Miraculously, it worked. I found myself at her table, a wobbly little thing stained with years of spilled Singa beer. And we talked. Or rather, I rambled. I deployed my arsenal of terrible jokes and presented myself as a man of worldly experience, my entire expertise built upon a single YouTube documentary I'd skimmed on the flight over. I talked about the philosophical significance of the Thai smile and the delicate balance of flavors in Tom Yum. And she listened. She didn't just listen. She engaged, her laughter feeling like a reward I hadn't earned. The mojitos kept materializing. The world outside the bar began to blur and fade. We moved to the tiny dance floor, a space no bigger than a bathroom, and we danced. She moved with a natural, fluid grace, while I approximated something resembling a man being electrocuted. But in that moment, surrounded by the chaos and the neon, it felt perfect. It was a scene from a film I'd always wanted to star in. I looked at her, the city's electric heartbeat pulsing around us, and I thought, this is it. This is the magic. This is the story I'll be telling for years. Then she leaned in. Her voice was a low, conspiratorial whisper that cut through the music and went straight to my soul. You want to see the real Thailand? She asked, her eyes gleaming. Not this tourist circus. My heart did a somersault against my ribs. Absolutely, I breathed, my voice thick with a cocktail of mojito and pure, unadulterated anticipation. What followed was a scene of pure, cinematic delirium. I was soon clinging for my very life to the back of a rickety, decades-old scooter, my arms locked around her waist as if she were a life raft in a stormy sea. We became a single, fearless entity, weaving through the chaotic ballet of Bangkok traffic. Tuk-tuks veered, cars honked a symphony of irritation, and the warm, humid wind whipped against my face, stealing my breath. I was terrified. I was ecstatic. I was a supporting character in my own action romance, and she was the mysterious, brilliant heroine taking me on the ride of my life. We finally screeched to a halt in a quiet, narrow alley, a world away from the glossy tourist facades. Here, the air was rich and authentic, heavy with the scent of charcoal smoke, sizzling garlic, fish sauce, and 100 unidentifiable delicious spices. This was where the real city ate. She ordered for us both, speaking in rapid, fluent Thai, with a wizened old vendor who gave her a respectful nod. I sat on a tiny red plastic stool, feeling completely and utterly out of my depth, and yet more authentically alive than I had in a decade. The food arrived, an array of dishes I didn't recognize, a vibrant mosaic of colors and textures. There were grilled meats on sticks, a fiery papaya salad that made my eyes water, and a bowl of noodles that smelled like heaven. It was a symphony of flavors, spicy, sweet, sour, umami all exploding on my tongue at once. I looked at her across the small, wobbling table, the steam from the food framing her face in the dim lantern light, and the thought solidified in my mind, clear and certain. My God, she is perfect. And then, the glitch. A boisterous group of local guys, their laughter loud and easy, ambled past our table. One of them, a young man with a friendly open face, spotted her. He grinned, nodded in recognition, and called out a phrase in Thai. It was casual, familiar, the kind of greeting shared between friends. She threw her head back and laughed, a bright, genuine sound that echoed in the alley, and called a response back to him, her tone playful and sharp. Then, as if she had merely commented on the quality of the chili, she turned back to me, took a delicate sip of her iced tea, and said, with a casualness that would forever redefine the word for me, "Oh, they said I look good tonight. Even for a guy." I blinked. I smiled a slow, faltering smile, my brain attempting to buffer. I blinked again. The words echoed in the suddenly silent cavern of my mind. They didn't make sense. They were foreign objects my consciousness couldn't process. "Sorry, what?" I finally managed to stammer, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me, her head tilting to the side like a curious bird, a faint, utterly amused smile playing on her lips. "You didn't know." In that single, earth-shattering moment, the entire operating system of my perception crashed. The hard drive of my reality screeched to a halt. The romantic soundtrack that had been swelling in my head came to a screeching, needle-scratching across vinyl stop. I was a Windows 95 computer being asked to run a complex AI simulation. Every assumption, every fleeting fantasy, every single detail of the past few hours was suddenly thrown into a blender. Now, let me be perfectly, unequivocally clear, this wasn't about judgment. This wasn't shock in the sense of disgust or disapproval. This was pure, unadulterated cognitive dissonance. It was the sound of 1,000 puzzle pieces I thought I'd neatly assembled suddenly taking to the air and rearranging themselves into a picture I had never, ever imagined. I wasn't looking at a different person. I was looking at the same person, but through a corrected lens. The beauty, the humor, the intelligence. It was all still there, real and vibrant. I had just been wrong about the packaging. I finally managed to form a complete, if inelegant, sentence. "Wait, so you're—" She simply nodded, her smile widening into something brilliant and unapologetic. "Yes, so, you still want to try the mango sticky rice? It's the best in Bangkok, I swear." And honestly, the sheer, unshakable confidence, the absolute, radiant chill with which she delivered that line, completely disarmed me. Any potential for awkwardness evaporated. I couldn't be mad. I couldn't even be properly embarrassed. A laugh bubbled up from the very core of my being, so sudden and forceful that I choked on a stray piece of chili. I laughed until my sides ached and tears streamed down my face, and soon she was laughing with me, a full-bodied, joyous sound that filled the entire alley. And we did have the mango sticky rice. We talked for another hour, maybe more. The conversation was different now, stripped of my silly projections. It was better. It was real. We talked about her life, her family, her dreams of opening her own design studio. And you know what? She was still awesome, still funny, still incredibly kind, and frankly, still light years out of my league in every conceivable way. The connection I'd felt was genuine. I had just been an idiot about the details. Before we parted ways, two conspirators in the universe's most hilarious joke, we took a selfie. In it, we are both grinning, our eyes bright with shared laughter and the lingering heat of the chili. She gave me a solid, final high five and offered a piece of advice I will carry with me for the rest of my life. "Next time, my friend," she said, her eyes twinkling with mirth, "read the fine print." So, no, I didn't find love in Thailand, not the kind I had naively scribbled in my travel journal anyway. But I found something infinitely more valuable. I found a story I'll never forget. I found a profound lesson in perception, that reality is often far more complex and interesting than our lazy assumptions. I learned about humility, and I witnessed a level of self-assured confidence that I could only aspire to. I discovered that the most transformative journeys aren't the ones where you find exactly what you were looking for, but the ones where you have your map torn up, your compass spun, and you're forced to find your way in a new, unexpected, and far more fascinating landscape. And now, whenever someone leans in and asks, "So, how was your trip to Thailand?" I just get a slow, knowing smile on my face, and I tell them the absolute truth. It was enlightening. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this journey with me. If this story of my unexpected adventure brought a smile to your face or made you think, please do let me know by hitting that like button. It truly means the world. And if you're not already part of our little community of curious souls, please consider subscribing. There are plenty more stories from the weird and wonderful corners of this world waiting to be told, and I'd be honored to have you along for the ride.